I'm your host, Josh, living life alcohol free. And what a great alcohol free morning it is, man. It's 12 degrees here in Michigan. Got a good night's sleep last night, feeling good. Got my exercise in, got my stretching in. Start working a little bit here, but I wanted to jump on here and touch base about a few things. One in particular, video came out this morning, and it's just about how we get in our own way a lot of times, especially as addicts. If we're hooked on alcohol, drugs, whatever it is, that thinking, the same old thinking, it gets us in trouble. And we can't get over the addiction part of it until we start to work on that aspect of it, until we start to really focus on what is going on with our thinking. We got to figure out how to change our attitude, our attitudes, because there's different ways of looking at certain things. But if we can look at it in a different light, we can get to where we want to go. Reframing is another one. If we can look at certain situations and take them at face value for just what they are, and start to not have that doom and gloom attitude about it. If we're looking at it like it's, because I used to look at things like, uh, bad situations were terrible. I didn't want to have to deal with them. I mean, honestly, I drank through a lot of those because I just didn't want to deal with it. The prospect of having to deal with something that was difficult was always difficult. I just wanted to drink through it all, man. And that's what I did. But then, I wasn't choosing to look at these things differently. So I was thinking the same way as I always was. And as a result, I was continuing to do the same pattern, live the same pattern, drinking as I was my entire life. So there's really no being able to change if we're going to refuse to look within, to really question alcohol, question the role that alcohol plays in our life, and really try to re, uh, reframe that way of thinking. So, as most of you know that have been on here for some time, you know that I quit because of my anger, my irritability. I wasn't having major health issues, but I was having health issues. The drinking was slowly killing me physically and mentally. The hangovers were getting more and more difficult to deal with. I was having indigestion all the time to the point where my esophagus was, I think it was really doing, the alcohol was really doing a lot of damage. I was having a hard time sometimes swallowing food. Uh, I was having just acid reflux like all the time. And the stress of drinking was wearing me out, wearing me down. And then I was waking up with these hangovers and I was having a hard time coping and dealing with them. And I was starting to get anxiety again, even though I was on medication for anxiety and depression. I was still having an issue with that, major issues because of the alcohol. And I wasn't able to really put that into perspective until I gave it up. I wasn't able to kind of have that attitude daily that I needed in order to get to the other side of it. I wasn't able to reframe the situation because I was addicted. I always kind of looked at my drinking like it was a habit. I didn't want to admit that it was an addiction. And in my heart, I didn't believe that it was an addiction. I really just thought that it was a habit, that someday I would be able to get over it when I chose to. But the reality is that it wasn't just a habit. I was fully addicted to alcohol. I was addicted to the ritual of buying it. I was addicted to the ritual of binge drinking. I was addicted even to the ritual of the hangover. I mean, even as much as I hated dealing with the hangovers, it was something that I was, it was security. I knew that I was going to have those days where I was hungover, and if they were bad enough, I knew that I wasn't going to drink that day. And that those days that I wasn't drinking were better than the days that I would start drinking early in the day, those days that I would black out, those days that I gave alcohol all the glory, those days that I didn't drink were better. But then I'd return back to drinking the next day and be right back in that cycle, and it felt good to be back in it. Even though I knew that it was causing me problems, it still felt good to use alcohol. I mean, the feelings that we get when we start drinking, we throw caution to the wind. We don't care that it's causing us problems in our relationships. We don't care that it's making us less productive. We don't care that we forget, things that are important. We don't care that we neglect things that are important, because alcohol is all that matters. And when we're in active addiction like that, there's no getting out. And I was watching another YouTuber yesterday, Slayer. And if you're on here, Slayer, welcome in. And I like to watch, I follow probably a half a dozen other sobriety YouTubers. In fact, I think I'm probably going to start to reach out and maybe do some collaborations with them as I watch them and get to know them. That's kind of one of my resolutions this year, is um, to grow the channel in that form, in that fashion. Other ways as well, but that's one of them. But Slayer is like talking about, how we just give everything up for drinking. We don't really care about the ramifications. Once we have that one drink, we're in it, man. We're in it. And he was talking about peeking out the windows. And I kind of laughed at that, even though I don't think he was trying to be funny. And I wasn't paranoid so much as a drinker, but certainly if I smoked weed, I was. But there was some paranoia and skepticism in my drinking, and I could relate somewhat to that, like peeking out the windows to see who's coming by, who's not coming by, like worried all the time that you're gonna be caught, drinking or doing drugs or whatever you're doing. Uh, all these, and I wasn't someone who like hid when I was drinking, but I certainly did try to hide the amount I was drinking. I mean, like, I didn't want to open up one beer can after another in the house. So sometimes, like in the wintertime, I'd go out to the garage and open the can of beer. Or in the summertime, I'd go outside to the backyard or the deck and open that can of beer, just so that they couldn't hear me open up, 12 beers, 15 beers, whatever I was, drinking. Or have them see me doing shots in the kitchen, have my kids or my wife see me like slamming shots of bourbon or vodka or whatever we had in our cabinet. I felt like it was kind of like I didn't want them to really know the exact true amount that I was drinking, because it made me feel like I was less than, and it made me feel like I was a slave to alcohol, which I was. I mean, it's hard to admit that when we're in it, but that's where I was with it. So when I quit drinking, I had to get into that. I had to get into that really deep and really look inside and try to figure out how I could get through that. So that's kind of what that video was that I put out today about. It's like about self-sabotage. It's about how our thinking keeps us addicted, keeps us in that loop. And even if we're not drinking, we still can have those patterns, those thought patterns that keep us from growth, that keep us from gaining the kind of life that we want to live. And then I posted a picture of my sign that I have next to my bed. Attitude is everything. Pick a good one. It's not something that I look at every day. I mean, even though when I wake up, it's staring me right in my face. um, Typically, my dog is waking me up, so I gotta feed her and take care of her right away. But I do pray or like give gratitude to a few things. But that sign is something I look at every now and then, and yesterday was one of them where it's like, you know what? I put that sign up like when I first quit drinking. I think I got that sign maybe in the first few months that I quit drinking. I found it at like a resale shop, a Salvation Army, I think, and it resonated with me because it was something that I really wanted to work on. I didn't want to walk around pessimistic all the time anymore. I didn't want to walk around feeling like everything was doom and gloom, everything was bad. I was sick of living that way, and I knew that alcohol played a major role in that. But like I said, even though I wasn't drinking anymore, I still lived with those neural pathways. They were formed. It took decades to form that. So even though I knew that it was going to take time to get out of that, and especially staying 100% alcohol free, um, I worked on it every day. I chipped away at it. I learned in the first like 6 months to a year, like reframing was a key in that. Like reframing our thinking in certain situations. Like when I start to think doom and gloom, instead of thinking about all the bad stuff that's creating and causing for me, which is anxiety because I have to figure out how to deal with it, reframe it like, you know what, this is a learning experience. This is something that I can take it. I could take my time. A lot of times it was because I'd rather be doing something else, but it's also because it was just difficult to deal with. And but hitting that head on was huge, and then learning how to reframe those situations. So let's take for example like a relationship issue, and you have to have a conversation with somebody that you don't want to have that conversation with them, but you know in your heart that in order to get to the other side you have to have that conversation. We can sweep that under the rug, and if we're drinking, yeah, we're going to drink at that, we're going to drink it away, we're going to, ignore it, blame them, not take accountability for our own part in that, and then we're just going to continue down that road. But say we're not drinking, or if we're still drinking but we want to be done with alcohol, but we can still fix those situations by reframing that situation by saying like, look, I don't want to deal with this, but I know that I need to in order to get to the other side of this. And when I get to the other side of it, not only am I going to be stronger, I'm going to know that I can handle situations and I don't have to drink at them, or I don't have to use alcohol to escape that situation. So that's the beginning. I want to say what's up to what's going on. Good morning. Welcome in. Glad that you're here. Um, Survivor says, yeah, there is. It's called believing in Jesus and getting a job. Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking about identity before this, and identity, and I heard it on the radio, so that's the reason why I thought of it. But it made me think of like how identity, like when we're drinking, our thoughts and our ideas of ourself, our identity is that of a drinker. So if we're drinking all the time and we're in addiction, we think of ourselves as drinkers. I'm a drinker. That's who I am, and that's who always going to be, unless I want to change that. Then we quit drinking, and then after a little while, we realize, you know what, we're non-drinkers. And then, you might live that way for a little bit of time, but then eventually you don't even crave alcohol anymore, and your identity is just, I'm just me. I'm just Josh. So like I kind of agree, but at the same time, like work isn't our identity either. I do believe that faith is for me, faith plays a huge role. It's everything. My faith and sobriety are hand in hand. But um, as far as like the job and the work and stuff goes, it's not my identity. It never has, and it never will be. This is I am monetized on YouTube, so in some ways it's a job, but it doesn't feel like a job because I want to be here. This is where God put me. This is the place where I'm supposed to be. So yeah, my feelings are wrapped up, and my emotions don't get all twisted up and tangled, and I don't make anything my identity. But faith is a huge role, so that's how I do feel about that. um, Jesus Christ can take your addiction away, and a job will occupy your time. So yeah, Jesus is, Lord and Savior. My Lord and Savior, and yes, he will take those. He took my addiction away, 100%. When I begged God to take me out of my addiction, it wasn't long after that He did. And the reason why is because I was ready, and I was convicted in that prayer. I begged about it. I begged for it. I asked for it. I prayed on it for 20 years, but I was never really ready, and I was never really willing, and I didn't really know how to do it even to get out of it. Like I just so I was never really like I never really surrendered to that notion. But so it was like we're not going to get taken out of that unless we're 100% surrendering, in my opinion. And that's really when I was at my wits end of drinking. That's what happened. I surrendered, and as a result, the tools that I needed to get over my addiction started to appear one after another. I had to do the work, but those tools didn't just happen to come into my life for no reason. They were there because they presented themselves, and I took advantage of them. I looked at them like there's opportunity here, and I'm not ignoring it anymore. I'm not going to go drink and ignore it. And that's really the key to this. Like, that's the attitude shift. It's like, instead of looking at something like it's a drag or it's a curse or whatever, like looking at it like it's a blessing, looking at it like it's an opportunity, and then taking advantage of that opportunity and not drinking is going to get us to the other side of this. Um, AA, as far as AA says, Ramen and Survivor. Um, I've never been a huge advocate for AA, only because I tried it a couple times over the years, and it didn't resonate with me. I didn't really. The approach wasn't what I was looking for. But there's so many different like groups out there now, online and in person, and easier to find. I find that this stuff's easier to find now. So if we care and we want to do the research, and we want to find out how to quit drinking, or we want to find a group of people, or we want to find whatever we're looking for, quit lit, it's easier to find now. So like the AA thing, there's things in it that I agree with, and if that works for people, I say do it. Um, who are we to say what someone needs and doesn't need? You know what I mean? Like I don't discriminate on that. Like this is not a linear journey. This is a jagged one, and it's different for everybody. What works for one person might not work for another, and that goes for all of it. So if people are here and they're going to AA and it's working for them, do it. Like, do what works. The key is we're not drinking. That's the key. That for me. That's the biggest thing. Um, Ramen says you started alcohol because you're selfish and still selfish because you can't shut up about yourself. Well, that's one way of looking at it. But I do appreciate your opinion. Um, and I've never actually heard that before. So, but that's okay. Um, Ronald, welcome in. Uh, I'll always be an alcoholic, even though I haven't had a drink in over 45 years. I've been a moonshiner when I was younger in the Appalachian Mountains. Yeah, so if you're growing up in that environment, needless to say, most of us, the environment we're growing up in, we're a product of that environment. So yeah, I mean, for me, I don't use the term alcoholic. I think that that's one of the things that why AA didn't jive with me. But at the same time, I do acknowledge that I was a problem drinker. Uh, I was hooked on alcohol. Whether you want to call it an addict or an alcoholic, it's up for interpretation. But for me, um, I don't need those terms. I just knew that I didn't want alcohol anymore, and to have the life that I wanted, I was going to have to find a different way uh, to approach things. And so I mean, that's why I'm here. That's the reason why I'm here. I find it important to hear that, for us to hear that. And so I'm just a messenger. I'm not like, I'm not the end all be all. There's so many different channels. There's so many different authors. There's so many different books, and then there's professionals, therapists, doctors, who this is their life's work, and this is important to them. And so I don't look down on any of the people that are looking to talk about this, because it's important. It's important that we talk about it. I mean, I don't know the circumstances for someone like Ramen. I don't know what your circumstances are. Um, 10 to 1, if you're here and you're on YouTube and you're watching this video, there's a reason why you're here and you're watching this video, and saying what you're saying. So, but at the same time, uh, this stuff needs to be talked about. If it's not, then we are not going to get where we want to go. This has to be talked about. It has to be discussed. Uh, I talk about my past and my experiences with alcohol because I don't ever want to forget. I don't want to forget where I was with alcohol. I don't want to forget the way that it made me feel. Um, were there good days of drinking? Absolutely. There's good days. There's days where, you think about, um, you have a drink at lunch, a couple drinks. Say you have a couple drinks at lunch. You get that like euphoric feeling, you don't have to go to work, say, you're gonna go walk around a park or something like that, and there's no worries, there's no cares in the world, and you have that buzz, so it enhances it. You have that euphoric feeling, you feel good, but then you want to chase that feeling. So after you're done doing that, you go home, or maybe you go to another bar, maybe you meet up with some friends, or maybe you go home and you self isolate, but then you continue drinking, and then you drink more, and you drink more, and you drink more, and you're chasing that feeling. Then you start to black out. Then you have, you know, if you have a family, you're not there. You're not present. Like you might be there physically, but mentally and spiritually, you're gone. You're like an empty vessel. You're like an empty shell. And I'm not alone in that. I know that I'm not, being that I'm almost 6 years sober, and I've been on sobriety groups and platforms, and Then I got to a point where I could start this channel and talk about it openly, publicly, and be okay with it. Um, I know that I'm not alone in this. And I know that there's people like you guys and people out there that need to hear this stuff daily so that we don't forget where we were with it. We were empty vessels of ourselves. And there's no growth in that. There's no fun in that. There's no life in that. There's no um, way to have a good life when we're in that, and that sucks. And sometimes we feel like, a lot of times we feel like, and I know that I did, and I know lots of other people that felt this way. Um, we don't know what life could be like without alcohol. I started drinking when I was 15 years old. I didn't know what a life could look like without alcohol. I thought this was how I was supposed to be and how life was supposed to be. Everyone that I looked at and looked up to and were friends with and everything like that, I thought everybody drank like I did, or even if they didn't, they still drank a lot or really found solace and joy in alcohol. And so I just thought that that was a normal thing. But getting alcohol free and seeing what a life could be like without alcohol makes me never want to go back to that. Like, that's not who we're meant to be. That's not how we're meant to be. We can't give ourselves grace when we're drinking like that. We can't be there for others while we're drinking like that. We just can't have the life that we want when we're drinking like that. And so I take that to heart. I don't take it personally, but I do take it to heart, comments like that, because, it's, you don't get it, and that's okay. But you're here and you're listening, so I assume you're still here. Baron, welcome in from Ohio. So you're dealing with the same ice and snow and everything else that we've been dealing with here in Michigan. Hope you're getting through it. Hope you're getting through it alcohol free. Uh, 45 years, Tim. Yeah, that for Ronald. And congratulations on 45 years, Ronald, because that's awesome. I mean, like I said, I'm going on 6 years. I don't play it forward and imagine myself never drinking again. Um, but at the same time, I do remind myself and I pray about it daily that I have the strength to get through whatever life's going to throw at me today. Um, I pray that, I can live a life that's alcohol free and live it to the fullest. Um, I pray that this channel can continue to grow and I can continue to reach as many people out there that need to hear the message or just want to be part of the group, because that's what's important. Like, these conversations, even though it's kind of for me verbal, but I'm reading your messages on here, and there's interaction that's taking place either on the live stream, on the videos, on the posts, on the community, and everything like that. So, um, Cheeto says, "What if I have one strong drink, get that quick buzz midday, then stop and continue your day as usual?" Well, if you can drink like that, then and that works for you, then I say do it. I say do what works for you. My personal opinion on that is that if you can have one drink, and I don't know what you mean by strong, but I assume it'd be like having like a 12 ounce, like 8% beer, like a porter, or 10% beer, because I could have one of those, um, like I said, in that lunch setting, just have like a light lunch and have a strong porter, and then feel good for an hour, and not need anything more. But then I was going to go continue to drink. And that's where the problem lied for me. That like that's I knew that was my thing. So for me that situation doesn't work, and it never will work. Um, and as time went on, and I recognized that I felt better not drinking, because I never really considered the first like week that I quit. I had never considered being done with alcohol. I wanted to be like a regular drinker, have one beer and not crave anymore, not want anymore. Um, but then I started to read posts on the group that I was on, and I recognized that they had been sober. I thought this was like a controlled drinking, control alcohol group, like moderation. Um, but then I started to recognize that these people were not drinking at all, and some of them not for like months and weeks, like weeks or months or years even. And they were talking about it in this positive light, like they felt better, their life was better. And since I had gone a week or so, I thought maybe I'll try that. And then I went to therapy, and I was going to drink after that visit. He gave me some tips on what to do if I was going to drink. But then I went home and I decided I didn't want to drink anymore because I didn't want to like wash away all the good stuff in my life. So I didn't drink. I made it over that hurdle. Then I made it to 10 days, which was the longest I ever went without alcohol. And then it was like, I'm going to shoot for 30 days. And by the time I got to 30 days, I thought, you know what? I don't even want to have one, and figure out the hard way that I am addicted to alcohol. I can't just have one. I have to assume that I would drink 10 if I was going to go back to drinking, and I don't want to feel that way anymore. But then I thought, is alcohol even good? Does alcohol even taste good? Like 4 months into being alcohol free, I tried my first NA beer, and the beer tasted exactly the same as the alcoholic versions of it, minus the alcohol, and it tasted better because it didn't have the alcohol in it. Alcohol doesn't taste good. Alcohol, the vessels that we drink it through is what tastes good. The beer, the wine, the liquor, we mix it up, we mix drinks, we make all this stuff. When you strip it all down, the alcohol is poisonous to our system. It's not. It's a toxin. Uh, it's a carcinogen. It eats away. It erodes our bodies, minds, and spirits. Uh, so why would I want to return to that? Um, the answer is I wouldn't. So I don't. Um, like yeah, 11%. So yeah, I mean you have like one 11%er, and you don't drink anymore. Uh, the buzz, I guess I can understand, because that was the buzz between like 0 and 6 light beers, or even just regular beer. Let's just say you're drinking like a regular like 5% beer. Those that 1 through 6 was gave me that buzz, right? And that's it feels good. It enhances the day, it enhances things. But let's just say hypothetically, we have kids, you know, and we're not finding joy in like doing the things that the kids want to do, the playing the games or running around the yard, or we have a spouse who, like, we don't like to watch the same movies or do the same things or whatever, and it's a chore to do any of those things. But we find the joy in the drinking, and we're taking solace in that buzz. and what we're neglecting everything else and not accepting of what else is going on in our life, then yeah, that buzz is going to be appealing to us. But then my argument would be eliminate the buzz, do those things with those folks that are in your life, and find joy in it, and see how you feel, and see if that is better than that buzz. Like we're chasing this buzz, like we're teenagers or something. Like there's nothing better in life. Like it's an elixir to life. And my argument is it's not. It makes it makes life suck. Uh, but I mean, again, like if that worked for me, I don't have that same perspective. So I mean, for me, that my perspective's different than other people. I say do what works for you, um, and continue doing that. But if you're questioning alcohol in any way, um, then it's time to do something about it. Cheeto says, I still crave more, but I stop or else I won't get anything done. Well, if you're craving more and you aren't acting on that, that is something. I mean, that's a lot of us can't do that. So I mean that's something that that a lot of us don't have that. And then the alcohol dissipates, and then you're stone cold sober. And that same day, which I was very rarely that, probably never. I mean, honestly, if it was, I didn't continue drinking after one or two because I was hungover from the night before, or I was sick, like I had a cold or like congestion, like a respiratory infection or something. Like I was sick and I couldn't drink more. That's the only reason I didn't drink more. I didn't really care if I didn't get anything done. So for me, that didn't really matter. But alcohol was all that mattered. Honestly, that was all that mattered. Um, so let's see. Ozzy, welcome in. Ozzy says it's rough because you get sober, then you just see the world for what it is, and you want to go do drugs again. I've been clean 5 years, and it's getting harder to not just say fuck it. So the fuck it thing is interesting. About a year or so, maybe even two, but between like years 1 and 2, I think it was, I heard a saying, it might have been my therapist that told me this, but at any rate, I was having a fuck it moment, and he said, "You need to learn how to turn that fuck it into a fuck that." And I thought, man, that is some solid advice. Um, and so I told my sobriety group, and a lot of us use that moving forward. Whenever somebody would think like, "F it," you just say "F that." I don't want to go back to that. You're right. The world is burning, but the world. So when I quit drinking and I started working on myself and working on my psychological well-being and everything like that, and especially growing in my faith, then I started like listening to those that have experience with this, and then I started to recognize that, look, the world's been burning since the beginning of time. It's not going to change. I can't do anything about that. I can only control myself. And so a lot of times I'll choose to just turn something off, or I'll choose not to engage with somebody, or I'll choose to just not like participate in that. That has to do with boundaries. That has to do with self-governing ourselves. That has to do with putting up boundaries with other people. That means like walking away from people. That means sometimes taking the harder route, but it takes looking within. And if we ourselves are okay with ourselves, and then to take it a step further, okay with what's going on in our own lives, not the world, because the world sucks. It's true. Not all of it, but if you look at if you watch the news, you're going to think the world sucks. So I just look at it like, look, I do watch the news. I'm totally into current events. I read it, I watch it, I whatever. And then but then sometimes they take it too far and I turn it off. On one way or another, they take it too far. So I have to self-govern myself and recognize what I'm putting into my psyche. We are what we feed ourselves. If I'm on social media and I'm reading stuff or watching stuff that's not good for me, it's no different than drinking 10 beers. Um, if I take the comments to heart that are on these live streams, it's no different than going and drinking a six pack. Like, I just try not to attach myself to those things. And when I notice myself feeling that way, I detach. I go do something that brings me joy. That I think that's probably different for everybody. For me, that's just taking a hike. That's playing with my dog. That could be listening to some music or reading my book. Like, reading is a huge thing this year that I picked up. I put my phone down, I turn off the radio or the news, I do whatever, and I start to just read my book. And I noticed I've gone a few days without a new book. I'm waiting for one to come in, and it's driving me nuts. Honestly, because I am addicted to my phone. I don't stop scrolling or looking at news or reading, looking at the same things over and over again, repetitive, checking in on things like nonstop, like OCD. And so I still struggle with that to a certain degree. I am better at it, but like I said, I do have other things that I can turn to when I start getting in that zone. And but turning that effort into an F that is huge, especially if you start thinking and romanticizing alcohol or drugs. You got to put it in its place. Like, no, I don't want that. I don't want that kind of a life. And I never had any slips. So as a result, I never had any relapses. I read enough and was friends with enough people that went there and did that themselves and came back and was like, nope, moderation doesn't work. It was a slippery slope. I'm back. It doesn't work. I can take their word for it. It doesn't, and so, but what I've learned about alcohol over these past 6 years is that it just one or two drinks isn't good for us. And I believe that. I don't think that it's good for people. I just don't. So that's the way I look at it. Um, yep, Timothy says, why have one? The world's burning, can't do anything about it. Ozzy says, absolutely. I mean, um, yeah, Timothy. So yeah, you've tried it many times and it always ends the same. So it's this testimony that helps. It helps people. I mean, it helps me. I've heard it a million times already. Uh, It still solidifies in my mind that you guys have been there. You've done that. It doesn't work. It just doesn't. And there's no reason to even tempt fate. I mean, we tempt fate, and what happens? We get burned. Um, let's see what else we got. 3 or 4 beers will hit you fast and hard. Yeah, it will. Um, life. So Cheeto says life feels like a chore without having a drink. I used to do my chores and drink, yeah, at home, especially. That was one of those habits that I formed, and when I quit drinking, I thought about how am I going to handle chores? How am I going to handle watching sports? How am I going to handle like those normal things that I did while I was drinking? And it turns out that those things, I still do those things, and I don't need alcohol to enjoy that. And the best part about it is, like, I do those things. It's a short burst. It's a short period of time. when it's over, I move on with my life. I'm not inebriated. I'm not hungover. I'm none of that. I don't, so we have to look at the positives to it, not the negative stuff. The positives are the alcohol's not in our system. It isn't. It won't. It hasn't been, and it never will be. And as a result, we can move on with our life. We can move on to the next thing. There's so much out there more to life than alcohol, and it's hard to see that when we're stuck in an addiction. It's a cheap thrill, 100%. Uh, Ozzy says it's not, and you don't wake up until it's gone. I've been able to rekindle a relationship with my mom and some siblings. My mom has said, I'm proud of you these last few years more than I've ever heard. Well, congratulations, Ozzy, because, I mean, those are the kinds of things for me that solidified my resolve to stay alcohol free. Uh, I didn't, well, I mean, my kids and my wife were proud of me in that first year, but it was when I got to the 1 year and I got like some gifts from my wife, a letter from her and my oldest daughter, and just like, they're this is awesome. Like, I'm not doing this for recognition, or I didn't do it for recognition. I'm still not. But when you are recognized for that, it does feel good. Um, I'm somebody who I got used to not being recognized, even as a drinker. Um, no pats on the back, no like attaboys or anything like that. Like, so I would just give myself the credit. Or since getting sober and growing in my faith, I'll just say, like, I can just look at things and say things are better. I don't need the accolades or the rewards or anything like that. I just know that things are better, and I know it. I don't need that. I don't need those words of affirmation. But I mean, it still feels good to hear it, 100%. Um, Ozzy, don't. Cheeto says, Ozzy, don't bother with things that are out of your control, or it'll drive you crazy. 100%. Joe is welcome in. Good morning. Day 33, I think it is. You said 32 yesterday. So congratulations, and I'm glad that you're here and you're going to continue on going with this. Um, let's see, Cheeto. I used to be a huge pothead. I could get I could get high. I started to have health problems. I had two surgeries from giving myself hernias from the coughing. I quit and started drinking. So yeah, replacing one habit for another, or I mean, I considered turning to weed, even though I knew that weed caused me paranoia and tachycardia, and I couldn't, like, I was high, but I couldn't wait for the high to be done. Like, it felt good, but like I said, I was panicked because I was like having a panic attack, and it might last like a full day. But like I said, I would get high. So I considered turning to weed, like, for the first like 3 years that I quit drinking, mainly because you can go to the store and buy it now recreationally here in Michigan. So like I was just thinking, I'll just go and get, try it, try some gummies, whatever. And I did that before I quit drinking, not on my own, but like when we were with um, friends of my wife. He would drink, or he would do smoke, and I would partake here and there. And but whenever I did that, for the most part, I didn't know how much I could do. I didn't know, like, I wasn't regular at it. So I would just keep on going, and then I would get to the point where I was like lost, like physically lost and mentally lost. I actually got lost a couple times at like a concert we were at and a casino, and then mentally, like, I just got to a point I was so baked I couldn't even like say anything. So I just sat there and nodded. Um, but anyway, thinking about that, um, the ramifications of turning to weed. So maybe not drinking and maybe doing weed would have been better. I don't know, but like I just thought if I did like it, I would be adding a potential addiction to that, and I really don't want to do that. It's already hard enough for me to get through life without alcohol. Now, why would I add on another thing and then try to and then become dependent on it or dependent on the feeling anyway, and then um, and then potentially become addicted to that. So like I was able to get through all these things without anything, and I'm glad that I did because I'm here, and I'm not using anything, and I'm my authentic self. I'm here with you guys. I'm living my life out here, and I'm not worried about getting to that next drink. I'm not worried about turning to other drugs. Um, so so Ozzy says the last F it can change everything. You'll know it's your last because you will give it more than you ever knew possible because of what's waiting on the other side of failure. Um, Ozzy says, I recently posted that to my Facebook. I fully agree with you. Sorry to blow up your chats. Well, I'm glad that you're putting some chats on here, man. Okay, Joe says 26 days. January 3rd is my sober date. That's crazy to me. So, yeah, 26 days. Awesome. Keep going. Uh, I made it to the end of these comments, and I am getting to work, so I'm gonna check out here in a second. But I'm glad you guys joined on here. If you're sober, let's stay sober. If you are questioning alcohol but you're still drinking, keep on questioning it. Keep coming back here, even if you're the trolls. I encourage everybody to check in because community is everything, and being alcohol free. Um, it'll keep us like in the loop, keep us informed, keep us connected. Not everybody in our personal life that we're walking around day to day with are uh, can understand what it's like to go through life with an addiction or living without it. They don't get addiction. Some people, like I would say, like my wife, she's been a nurse for 25 years. She's been in the medical field. She knows about addiction. She had a parent that was an addict that died of his addiction. So she gets that. She gets what it's like, but she hasn't been through it. She's not an addict like I was. She doesn't fully comprehend that. So when I was going through therapy that first 6 months, and I was going there, and he was an addict himself, and he specialized in drug and addiction counseling. He got it, but I didn't see him every day. It was once a week, you know. So I had to hold on to those things that I was going through or write them down. A lot of the stuff I documented on This Naked Mind, my sobriety group. So I had that all written down already, and I could go back and kind of read what I wrote. Or some people would say stuff in my sobriety group that I wanted to talk about in the therapy, but it was because I trusted him. He's been through addiction. And then my sobriety group, they've all been through addiction, or they're living through recovery, and they get it. And those are the people I counted on to get me through. And so that's what's important, and that's for me, that's why I'm here. Um, it's been a pleasure, Ozzy, and thanks for being here. And I do appreciate it. So I hope you guys have a great sober day. It's hump day. If it's your work week, if you're working, I don't work like regular Monday through Friday hours, but I still do like the fact that it's wrapping up, and we can get to the weekend. And weekends are fun, and not when I have to work on them, but I only work one Saturday a month, so it's not bad. But yeah, let's do it alcohol free. Let's stay positive. Let's work on our let's continue to work on just daily our attitudes, our reframing, and just staying alcohol free and staying in recovery. So have a great day, everybody, and we'll see you on the next one. Check out my video from today, and I'll have another one on Sunday, and then we'll see. Maybe I'll get back on for another live stream on Friday, or Saturday. So have a great day, everybody, and we'll talk to you soon.